Good morning. I just realized I'm back on my mat already. Usually I start a little closer. Hoping there's a few people out there. I know here in town it's a gorgeous morning, so I wouldn't be surprised if people aren't already out doing something outside. And if there is one or two dialing in from somewhere else, I hope it's a beautiful day there as well. We celebrated the solstice over the weekend, and just like I mentioned last week, as we went through the sun salutations, we did 108 sun salutations, and I know Kyle joined us, and he and I were in similar situation most of this week, groaning when we stood up and groaning when we sat down. My hamstrings were very sore from all those. Even if I chose different variations, that's still a lot of movement for sure. A couple hours worth. So today this week I still sort of teaching to the solstice theme, our welcoming of the longer days, the longer amount of sun, hopefully warmer days. So let's start by closing the eyes, slowing down the breath, slowing down the inhales, slowing down the exhales. And maybe even begin to count the length just to yourself. Maybe your inhale is a count of 3, maybe even a count of 4. And once you know that, see if you can make your exhale equal. So that same count of 3 or 4. You might find after a couple of rounds, you might move from 3 to 4 as we move into this slowing of the breath. No worries. It is definitely pollen season in Cochrane right now, so lots of sneezing and sniffles going on. So once we've found that equal breath, see if we can move that into rectangular breath. So on rectangular breath, after we inhale, we pause for maybe 1 or 2 breaths with our lungs full. And then we'll exhale that equal amount and pause with empty lungs for that count of 1 or 2. And after a few rounds of that, only if you want to, it's optional, you might move to the square breath. So the square breath, if I'm taking a count of 3 or 4 to inhale, I'm pausing at full for that same count of 3 or 4. Exhale for 3 or 4, and then pausing at empty for that same count of 3 or 4. So choosing which one, again, you might be able to maybe not do the full square the first time, but you might be able to move to that after a few rounds of the rectangular breath. And you might even imagine that square or that rectangle as you're breathing in your mind's eye. So inhaling up one side, pausing, seeing the line across the top, exhaling down, and pausing across the bottom back to the start. So just a little more background on solstice as we spend a few moments in these breaths. Sol meaning sun, and stis, so the S-T-I-C-E, coming from the Latin word stitium, meaning stop. So the solstice really means sun stands still. So even though some of us maybe have had extra stillness in our lives so far this year, the solstice, whether it was the day or kind of feel like we might be feeling that energy all week. Might be a time to just spend a little time welcoming the sun. Maybe spending a little bit more time outdoors, particularly in the evening. They're nice and light when it's not thunderstorms here. Just a couple more rounds of that breath, really letting us arrive at our mats, switching ourselves into that rest and digest, the parasympathetic nervous system switched on. Then we can slowly open our eyes, letting the breath return to a regular pattern. It's hopefully a little bit slower and deeper than maybe when we first sat down. And we'll move through the warm-up circle of joy. Inhale, arms up, interlocking the fingers. Maybe pressing the palms towards the ceiling. Exhale, round in the back, palms forward. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, bringing the hands behind the back, interlocking the fingers, pressing the palms down. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, left hand down, right arm up and over. Inhale through center, right hand down, left arm up and over. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, fold. Extra breath here. Doesn't matter how far forward we get. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, twisting left, right hand, left knee, sitting up tall. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, twist right, left hand, right knee, sitting up tall. Inhale, arms up. And exhale, hands to prayer. Let's switch up which way our legs are crossed. Moving through that one more time. If our legs were crossed, inhale, arms up. Interlocking the fingers, pressing the palms towards the ceiling. Exhale, round in the back, palms forward. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, hands behind the back, interlocking the fingers. Maybe pressing the palms down, feeling that stretch across the chest. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, left hand down, right arm up and over. Inhale through center, right arm down, left arm up and over. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, fold. Extra breath here. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, twisting left, right hand, left knee, sitting up tall. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, twist right, left hand, right knee, sitting up tall. Inhale, arms up. And exhale, hands to prayer. Extra breath here. And then let's bring the hands to the thighs. We'll lean forward just as far as is comfortable. Over to the right. Leaning back, kind of arching the back. Rocking on both sit bones to the left and forward. So I can bend my elbows, straighten my arms, move in whatever way helps maybe stretch out some tight spots this morning, changing direction. So in Ayurveda, which is yoga's sister science, we're moving from Kapha season, the wet, heavy, dense, which definitely weather-wise we were this season, moving into Pitta, which is that hotter, drier. So if you are Kapha, as myself, I'm probably in a great season as far as I'm maybe being encouraged to do the things to get out in the sun and maybe be a little bit more active, a little bit more fiery. But for someone who's already the Pitta constitution, too much extra sun and extra could maybe increase the Pitta in the body. And there's certainly people who know this much better than me, i.e. Jill Novak. But just to get that little idea of how we're moving from one season to another and how that might affect our energies or lots of other parts of our lives. Let's come around to hands and knees, hands under shoulders, knees under hips. And then I'm going to suggest we walk the knees just a little bit back. This is a little bit newer cue for me, coming up on the toes if that feels better. But I just find for some of our movements, having the knees just a little bit back might offer a little more mobility. So we'll move through cat-cow. So on the inhale, pointing the tailbone to the ceiling, lifting the chest, letting the belly soften. Exhale, rounding the back, chin to chest, really arching that back. Let's come back to neutral because I meant to talk about our hands for a moment. So just like in down dog, even in all fours, if you want to, my mat's quite wide, but if you want to bring your hands even so that the pinkies are touching the edges of the mat, spreading them wide, and maybe still feeling like you're pointing those elbow pits forward, as long as that feels okay for the shoulders. It's still a good position to come right into when we're in all fours. So let's continue to move through. Inhale, lifting the gaze, pointing the tailbone up. Exhale, rounding the back, chin to chest, really pushing into the hands as if they're pushing away from the knees. And when you inhale, imagine you're pulling the hands towards the knees, arching the back. Excellent. Let's come back to neutral. I'm going to shift the weight into my left knee, keeping my right knee bent. I'm going to come up on the toes, and then I'm going to lift that right foot, pushing it towards the ceiling. So I'm keeping the knee bent. And then when I inhale, I'm rounding slightly, bringing the knee towards the chest or the forehead. And exhale, lifting the chest, lifting the foot, keeping the knee bent. So it should actually be exhale, round, inhale, lift. And then bringing that right knee down, shifting the weight into the right knee. I'm going to lift the left knee, pushing that left foot up towards the ceiling. And then exhale, round, knee coming towards the chest. Inhale, lift. And exhale, lowering that. Let's tuck the toes, walking the hands back, sitting back on the toes if that's okay. I'm even manipulating my toes a little bit more, trying to tuck them a little deeper. Sitting back on the hips or keeping the weight forward. Big deep breaths. Maybe a little shake of the arms. I think mine are still a little easy to fatigue after Saturday. Inhale, walking the hands forward, untucking the toes. Let's tap them out. Just spend a moment sitting back on the heels, lifting the knees, only if that feels okay. Just stretching the feet a little. And then walking the hands back forward, maybe just a little bit forward of the shoulders. Again, knees can be just slightly behind the hips. So on the exhale, I'm pushing my hips back towards my heels. Inhale to all fours. And then exhale, bringing my hips forward, maybe lifting my chest, maybe not the first time, into Cobra. Inhale, hips back, or inhale to all fours. Exhale, hips back. Inhale to all fours. And exhale, hips forward just as far as is comfortable. This can be lots of pressure for the wrists and shoulders. So this is dancing cat. We'll use this to warm up shoulders and wrists, but it will also become part of, no, we're not going to do that in our vinyasa today. Coming back to all fours, let's walk our hands back to the knees. We'll bring the right knee forward. Inhale, arms up. So this will form part of the salutation that we're going to move through today. Exhale, hands down, either framing the foot or maybe both hands on the inside. So you can switch knees. Bringing the left knee forward. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, reaching down to frame the foot, or again, can be on the inside, you can be on fingertips, coming up on the toes of the right foot, lifting the right knee, and stepping the right foot forward to forward fold. So belly resting on thighs, knees are bent, fingers are reaching down towards the mat. Maybe swaying a few times. Reaching for opposite elbows. Exhale, fold. Inhale, let's bring hands to shins, shoulders back. As I press into my shins, I'm really stretching forward with the crown of my head. Exhale, fold. And inhale, arms up. Rise up. Exhale, hands to prayer. So we will move through a salutation in today's class where we're sort of partner that half sun salutation at the top and then the lunging. And actually we're going to move into some half splits as well. So I'm just going to turn to face you just so you can see me a bit better for our next posture. Inhale, arms up. Interlocking the fingers, bringing out the 2 pointer fingers, crossing the thumbs, lifting up and out of the waist. And exhale, bending to the right, so pushing the hips to the left. I'm trying to bring the bend out of my elbows, but I might need to keep them bent for my shoulders. Inhale through center. Exhale, bending to the left as I push the hips to the right. I'm not going to, but you can turn your gaze and your chin up towards the top elbow or the ceiling. Let's do that one more time each side. Exhale, bending to the right, pushing the hips to the left. Inhale through center. One last time. Exhale, bending to the left, pushing the hips to the right. Half moon pose, which I think we're probably pretty close to half moon. Inhale back to center. I don't think I'm still awake when the moon comes up now. Exhale. Let's sweep the arms out for a swan dive, forward fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, deep bend in the knees to touch the fingertips down. Let's step the right foot back, dropping to the right knee. Inhale, arms up. We'll take a couple breaths in low lunge, letting those shoulders sink away from the ears. You might want to have a little extra padding under the knees, maybe a blanket or a towel. I'm actually going to grab a blanket. My knees are a little sensitive this morning. I'm hoping everyone has collected a few items to help with this sort of thing. So on the exhale, let's bring the hands down to the thigh. So again, because I don't know if you've got blocks or not, if you have blocks, you can maybe bring one in each hand. We're going to move through half splits. So I can keep my hand on my thigh as I sit back and lift my foot. Maybe I've got blocks. Maybe it's accessible for me to touch down on the mat. And then on the inhale, coming back to low lunge, maybe walking that foot just a little bit forward for this, and then coming all the way forward. So now I'm feeling a stretch in the right front hip flexor. Exhale, rocking back. Doesn't matter how far back you come. And inhale, coming forward. Exhale back. Inhale forward. Feel free to take a couple breaths in either shape. And then the next time you come back through neutral, let's pause here. I'm going to reach down so I can tuck that right toe, lifting the right knee, right foot forward. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. And inhale, arms up. Rise up. Exhale, hands to prayer. So we'll move right into the other side. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, fold. This time, stepping back with the left foot, letting that left knee drop. Inhale, arms overhead. Maybe walking that right foot just a little bit more forward. Couple of breaths here, letting the shoulders relax. And then again, either reaching down to the thigh blocks. Maybe you can touch the mat, lifting that right foot. Inhale, coming back to neutral. And exhale, coming a little bit forward. It's okay if the knee goes a little past the ankle. We're just trying to stretch that hip flexor. Exhale back. Inhale forward. Again, pausing for a couple breaths if that feels better. And then next time we move through neutral, let's pause there. Tucking the left toes, lifting the left knee, stepping the left foot forward. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. And inhale, arms up. Rise up. Exhale, hands to prayer. So I am going to move my blanket, even though we will come down into low lunge again. We won't be doing the half split move. So let's step back with our left foot coming into warrior two. So left foot more or less parallel. Right foot toes pointing to the top of the mat. Hands on hips. We'll bend into the front knee. And just checking if I can comfortably bend and maintain and my knee is way past my ankle, I might walk that foot a little bit forward. It's okay if the knee goes past the ankle a little. I'm pressing down and out with the feet. So really pressing into that back edge of the left foot. Inhaling the arms to shoulder height. All good warriors look behind them, so having a quick look at that back arm, just seeing if it is where we think it is. And then settling the gaze over the middle front finger, warrior 2. Big deep breaths. Maybe not necessarily coming to the rectangular or the square breath, but see if you can maintain that equal breathing throughout practice. Exhale, dropping the back arm down the back leg. Maybe pointing that top palm back. I'm lifting up and out of the waist and over. You might look up at that top elbow or the ceiling. I still have a bend in the front knee. Reverse warrior. Inhaling the arms back to shoulder height. Let's lower the arms. Pivot the right foot forward. We're going to come into a wide leg forward fold. So knees are soft. Let's bring the hands to the tops of the thighs. Pushing the hips back. Pausing at halfway. Pointing that tailbone to the ceiling. And then deciding maybe you'll stay here. Or you might let the hands come a little further down the legs. They can stay anywhere on the legs. They might reach to the floor. I can bend my knees if I need to. Maybe letting head, chin come to chest, head hang heavy. Maybe slowly nodding the head, yes. Slowly shaking the head, no. Keeping the hips where they are. Stretch the hands forward so the arms are outstretched, and then maybe bringing them just slightly wider than the shoulders. Little bit of a weight transfer into the hands. Wide leg down dog. Inhale, bringing the hands back to in between the feet. Let's bring a slight bend in the knees, hands at the sides of the legs, really pressing into the outside edges of the feet to roll ourselves up to standing. We'll heel toe the feet together, come to stand at the top of the mat, and we'll move through our sun salutation. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, stepping back with the right foot, dropping the right knee. Inhale, arms up. Low lunge. We'll take a couple breaths here. Exhale, reaching the hands down, stepping the left knee back, tucking the toes, lifting the knees, pushing the hips back towards the heels, lifting the hips, down dog. So a little test today to see if our feet are in the right shape, even though we're not going to be lowering from plank. Bring your body forward, shoulders over wrists, and there's enough room for the legs are further enough back to be in plank, then you're in the right spot. So adjusting the feet accordingly. You might bend the knees a few times, pressing the heels down towards the mat. Maybe a couple breaths in stillness, knees bent, really lifting those hips, pointing the tailbone to the ceiling. And then on the next inhale, Softly walking the hands back to the feet. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. And inhale, arms up. Rise up. Exhale, hands to prayer as we walk to the top of the mat. We'll step back this time with the right foot into Warrior Two. Checking that stance. Maybe adjusting the feet. Inhaling the arms to shoulder height. Quick look at the back arm. Settling the gaze over the middle front finger. Pressing down and out with the feet. Engaging the legs. And coming back to that equal breath. Maybe even one of the rectangular with a little bit of retention. Next exhale, let's drop the back arm down the back leg. Lifting the left arm up, maybe scooping it back. But I'm trying not to collapse. Lifting up and out of the waist and over. I still have a bend in the front knee. Reverse warrior. Inhaling the arms back to shoulder height. Let's lower the arms, pivot the left foot forward, though this time we'll bring the heels together. We'll move through the other side of our sun salutation. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, stepping back with the left foot, dropping down onto the left knee. Inhale, low lunge. Couple breaths here, relaxing the shoulders. Exhale, reaching the hands down. We can try a different transition here, coming up onto the left toes, lifting the left knee, placing the hands, stepping the right foot back, down dog. Or at any time, choosing to drop the knees, hips to heels. If down dog just isn't working for your wrists or shoulders, and then on the next inhale, softly walking the hands back to the feet. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, arms up. Rise up. Exhale, hands to prayer as we walk back to the top of the mat. Just going to take this opportunity for a sip of water. So we're going to move into crescent lunge, and from crescent lunge we're going to move into warrior three. So if you're near a piece of furniture or the wall and you'd like to use the support to maybe stretch a little deeper into a posture, please feel free to take that position. So we'll step back with the left foot staying up on the left toes. If I want a little bit more sturdy base, I'm going to walk my right foot a little bit closer to the right edge of the mat. Hands on hips, let's bend into that front knee. I'm stretching back into a straight leg, kind of feeling my pelvis tilt forward. So let's bring that little slight bend in the back leg to have our pelvis a little bit more straight up and down. Inhaling the arms to shoulder height. Let's let them relax down. Let's drop the elbows, bringing the arms into cactus. Couple breaths here. You can even lift the chest, come into a slight back bend. And then let's bring the chest back forward if we had come into a bit of a back bend. And on the exhale, twisting to the right. So I might not twist very far because I'm twisting from the upper part of my back with my arms in this shape, not necessarily the waist. Couple breaths, lots of balance here as we twist and balance. And inhale, coming back to center. I'm going to lower my arms and kind of have them come out slightly behind me as I lean forward into that right foot and begin to lift the left off the mat. So again, I can be reaching for a wall or a piece of furniture. I might keep my toe down if that's what my balance needs today. Or I can continue to fold forward. See if we can come to those equal breaths for 2 or 3 breaths in Warrior 3. Inhale, placing that foot back down. We'll raise the arms for a breath in crescent lunge. And then exhale, left foot forward. We'll let that go with a little bit of a lumbar twist. I know I tend to get tension in the glutes when we move through that sequence. And then we'll step back this time with the right foot, staying up on the right toes, hands on hips. Again, maybe adjusting your stance so it's a little wider. Bending into that front knee. Bending that back knee slightly, feeling the difference. Inhaling the arms overhead. Letting the shoulders relax. Bringing the elbows down into cactus. Let's hold here for a few breaths. Maybe lifting the chest and the gaze. Slight back bend. Maybe coming to equal breath. Bringing the chest forward. Exhale, twisting to the left. Again, it's not about how far you're twisting. We're really twisting just with the upper part of the back. Equal breath. Inhale, coming back to center. Let's lower the arms as we shift the weight into that left leg. Bending forward, lifting the right leg just as high as is comfortable. I'm trying to roll that right hip bone down. I can hold on to anything. So for instance, if I hold on to a chair, I might be able to maybe just see what it feels like to lift that leg a little higher and drop that right hip down. So it's not lesser than. Inhale, stepping that right foot back, raising the arms, crescent lunge. And exhale, lowering the arms, right foot forward. Let's let that go with a twist. So I don't remember now who it was on Saturday. Can't remember if it was Natalia or Megan, but they had some really great words where we were kept talking about choosing a variation in order to have stamina to get through 108 sun salutations. And they said words around, if you don't do that, you're not actually moving your body into ways that it probably needs to move. When we do exactly the same thing that many times, not only do we fatigue the same parts of our body, but maybe there's parts of our body that need to move and we're not moving them because we're rigidly only moving it in one way. So I don't think I saw anyone who wasn't making some sort of change as they moved through that many sun salutations. So when we reach out for a chair or a wall, it could be that we're able to get that feeling of leveling the hips. Maybe we're able to get that feeling of how high can I lift my leg. And oftentimes when we have that feeling in our body, it does become, it's like when I teach half moon against the wall. When we remove that fear of falling, we're often all very surprised by how deeply we can move into that posture. Alrighty, off my soapbox. Let's move through we'll do a half sun salutation to come down to the mat. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, deep bend in the knees. Let's come down to all fours. Push hips to heels. Inhale to all fours. Exhale, hips to the mat, coming into a cobra. Inhale, all fours. Let's bring the knees wide, toes to touch behind, reaching the arms forward. At any time, if it feels better to be up on the toes, the knees might be a little closer together, and so then you might place one hand on top of each other. Even two fists, even a block. Whatever it is you need to do to find some ease in that posture. And that might even mean laying on your back. So I trust that everyone knows how to choose what's right for them to take this little break between standing and supine postures, coming back to the breath. Maybe even seeing if you can get back into from equal breath to rectangular breath, maybe square breath. So again, although we've maybe had lots of time in the last number of months to reflect, I think the changing of a season, particularly when it did seem to line up for us between having a few more freedoms than we maybe had in the last few months to move around. So it's a good time to maybe think about where we've been and where are we going. So if we think about it in the context of the pandemic, where are we going from here to learn to live with the virus while protecting those most vulnerable? So I will get this is my daily message. I do the things I do not to protect myself. I do them to protect the people that are the most vulnerable. But it can also be a time to reflect on maybe something more personal. Where have you been? Maybe these last few months have had you learn something new, discover something about yourself that you hadn't maybe even had the time to discover in the past. And what does that mean going forward? Are we going back to some of the things we did before, maybe some of the patterns that we did before that we sort of had to break because of maybe staying home a little bit more? What is it we want to hang on to? What is it we want to let go of? Lots of things we can be thinking about when we can spend maybe a little bit more time in the evening, don't have that feeling that we need to shut things down when the day is still so bright. And then maybe from a nourishment perspective in Ayurveda, again, everything I know about Ayurveda I have learned from Jill Novak. But smaller, lighter meals, which often I think most of us will gravitate to when the weather is warmer and more muggy, which we don't always get. So just a couple more breaths in this shape. Then on the next inhale, let's lift ourselves up to all fours, walking the knees back so we can bring ourselves onto our belly. I'm going to bend my elbows, placing one hand on top of each other. Let's start by resting the forehead and just rolling the forehead side to side a couple times. And then I'm going to shift my weight a little bit more to the right side of my body, keeping my right leg on the floor. I'm bending up the right knee and bringing it towards the left elbow as far as is comfortable. The left foot is pointing straight out, so it's in that frog's leg shape. So this is half frog. I can have the middle of my forehead, resting, or I could have my head turned more to the left or more to the right, and whatever works for your neck. So half frog, quite a bit less intense than full frog. I do teach full frog. It's something not comfortable with teaching when I can't see the students, because I don't really know what props everyone has, and it really is nice to be able to pad the knees when we move into the full version. But I'm still getting a passive stretch, an opening in the left hip. With each exhale, I can imagine that part of the hip that's lifted from the mat is sinking maybe a little closer. Exhale, stretching the left leg out beside the right. Let's rock the hips back and forth a couple times. And then shifting the weight more into the left side of the body, bending up that right knee, pointing the right toes straight out to the side, making that frog leg shape, choosing the right shape for the neck. Coming back to those equal breaths. Maybe even moving into the retention, so the rectangular or the square breath. And then the next inhale, stretching the right leg out, lowering the forehead, rocking the hips back and forth a few times. Bringing the hands under the shoulders, pushing ourselves to all fours. Let's push the hips to the right, looking over the left shoulder. Let's pause here even for a couple breaths. Pushing as deep as you can, hopefully feeling a stretch. Inhale through center, pushing the hips to the left, looking over the right shoulder. Coming back to center, let's roll onto the right or left hip so we can come all the way onto our backs. For some reason, all the way off my mat. So bending the knees, bringing the feet to the outside edges of the mat. Let's windshield wiper the knees back and forth a couple times. Just another little stretch of the hips, release of any tension. And then bringing the right knee into the chest, maybe interlocking the fingers, placing it somewhere below the knee. But if you need to, you can hold behind the thigh as well, whatever's more comfortable. Know sometimes, and certainly this is what I feel right now with my shoulder, is sometimes reaching up onto the outer part of the leg is a little bit too much stretch from my shoulder. So choosing what's more sustainable. You might be able to stretch that left leg out, but keeping it bent if that's better for the low back. I'm pulling the knee into the chest, out and around the ribs. I'm trying to keep both shoulders on the mat. And I'm taking big, deep breaths. I might feel a pinching on the top of the hip. And as I take big, deep breaths on the right side, I'm helping to massage the ascending colon. Let's release the knee, take the right hand and circle the right kneecap. And let's move the knee away from the body and then circle it back in. Change direction. And then changing sides, let's stretch the right leg out, left knee in. But again, of course, bending the right knee if that's better for the back. Pulling the knee in, maybe out and around the ribs. Pulling in as tight as you can without straining. Big deep breaths. This is Apanasana, or wind relieving pose. And as I take big deep breaths, I'm massaging the descending colon. Let's release the knee, encircling the left kneecap, moving the knee away from the body and then circling back towards. This movement might be limited by your shoulders. That's fine. Just trying to encourage that movement of the top of the thigh bone in the hip socket. Let's change direction. And then stretching the left leg out. We're going to come into full happy baby. I sometimes teach one side at a time, particularly after that sequence. So if you do want to do one side at a time, I'll kind of cue when to switch. But reaching up and grabbing the feet from the outside, the inside, maybe holding on to the ankles. Shoulders might be lifted. I know mine are. That's a little bit of tight hips and a little bit of tight shoulders. So sometimes I reach for my ankles just to let the shoulders relax a little more. I'm still getting as much of an opening in the hips and maybe a little less strain on my shoulders. You can switch sides if you decided to do one side at a time. You can rock from side to side. Maybe a couple of breaths of equal breathing. And then exhale, releasing the legs, stretching the heels out towards the opposite corners. Palms up. Again, recommending maybe that the arms come out nice and wide so the shoulder blades are flat. If you've got something for behind the knees and you know you like to do that, you can bring the hands onto the body as well. Sometimes we just crave that little more inner movement, inner shape. Covering the eyes if you have something, making those movements Actually meant to talk us through Shavasana, but I'll do that. Well, I will anyways, even though some of you are probably already. I just think sometimes I teach a lot of beginners, and one of the things I commonly forget is teach them how to move into Shavasana pose. It is a pose. It's not, it's meant to be relaxing, but it's not just flopping out on the mat. So I'll just walk us through a few cues. Lying on our back, bring the legs about 12 to 18 inches apart, adjusting the distance until the hip joints relax. Draw the shoulder blades down and away from the ears and slide them toward one another until they seem to rest flat against the floor underneath you. Release the arms to the sides, placing them 8 to 10 inches from the body, palms facing up, or bring them onto the body if you're feeling a little more inward today. Gently lengthen the lower back, sliding the buttocks in the direction of the tailbone, allowing the low back to retain a natural arch. If lying with straight legs creates discomfort, you can put a bolster under the knees or bend the knees, placing the feet at the edges of the mat, and let the knees fall towards each other. Close your eyes, turn your head from side to side for a few times, gradually resting it upright and in the center. Take a moment to survey the body, adjusting it to be as comfortable as possible. Now turn your attention to your breath. Inhale through your nose and be aware of the breath as it fills your lungs. Your abdomen rises. Without pause, begin the exhalation, continuing to breathe through your nose while allowing the abdomen to fall naturally as it leaves the lungs. Relax and allow the rhythmic nature of the breath to take over as inhalation and exhalation flow effortlessly into one another. Soon the back of the body will begin to feel a gentle warmth as it rests against the floor. Allow this sensation to rise through the front of the body. Soften the face, the front of the neck and throat, the chest, the tops of the shoulders, the arms all the way down to the tips of your fingers. Relax the rib cage and the area around your heart. The abdomen softens as it rises and falls with the breath. The tops of the thighs soften and your relaxed attention flows all the way down to the tips of the toes. Then you feel it move all the way back to the crown of the head. Bones, muscles, movement, I surrender now. Anxiety, elation, depression, churning thoughts, all these I give to the hands of peace. I'll bring you back in a moment. Begin to bring some awareness back to your body. Taking in some deeper breaths. Maybe open and close your hands a few times. Move the feet, wiggle the toes. Leaving the hands down on the floor if you have the space. Inhale, bring them all the way up to over the head. Exhale, bringing them back down to the sides. Bringing the knees into the chest. Giving them a nice tight squeeze, maybe rolling a few times from side to side. Eventually, rolling all the way over to your right or left side, taking a breath or two in fetal position. And then when you're ready, pushing yourself back to seated, closing your eyes when you get there, bringing your hands together in prayer. I'm going to leave us with some words from the very wise Kermit the Frog. If life were easy, it wouldn't be difficult. Thank you very much for sharing your practice with me this morning. Namaste.